Oh my, would you look at the time? It's new feature time. So welcome back to No Thomas Frank Explains video. Today we are going over 4 brand new features that launched in Notion today, Wednesday, November 11th, 2020, which is almost certainly not the day I'm gonna get this video out since I spend so much time positioning llamas on sets and all kinds of other stuff. But in this video, I'm gonna walk you through these 4 features, which include number 1, and most excitingly, the timeline view for databases. So for anybody out there who wants to create Gantt charts, this is gonna be very interesting for you. But personally, the other 3 features that launched today, while they're a little bit more subtle, a little bit less worthy of confetti for most people, are actually more exciting for me. These are things that I've been waiting for a very long time. And they include, number 1, the ability to customize what properties are shown on pages, both regular pages and database pages, which means no more scrolling through huge lists of properties for big databases before you get to what you actually want to see. I've been waiting for that for so long. Number 2, the ability to change the sharing settings on subpages, which means they no longer have to be forced to inherit the sharing settings of their parent pages. Really useful. And number 3, small tweak, but something I've been wanting for quite a while, the ability to limit the number of rows that are shown on inline databases. So if you have a huge database with hundreds of rows, you can decide to see maybe only 10 or 20 on the first load when you're creating like maybe a dashboard for yourself. So let's roll that intro. Let's head on over to the green screen computer view, and I'm going to show you in detail each of these features. Alrighty, welcome to my new and improved screen view. Now there's no box, or I guess circle, around my face cam. So we're gonna go through these 4 features. I'm gonna show you what they can do, talk a little bit about their limitations, and show you how you can sort of integrate them into your workspace and edit your workspace using them. And we're gonna start out with the one that everyone is most excited about, but also the one that has the most controversy, which is this timeline view here. The reason there's a little bit of controversy is that at launch, Notion decided to make this a bit of a limited feature. If you're on the free plan, then you can only have 3 of these timeline views. If you're on a team plan, you can have 5. If you're on enterprise, you can have unlimited. So I wanted to integrate this into my ultimate tasks template, but if you watched my videos on that, you will know that we have a projects area here where you can basically spawn an instance of a project template, and you could have as many of these as you want. Well, problem being with these timeline limitations, if you have a bunch of different projects, every single one of your timeline views in here is going to be limited. So I'll talk a little bit about this later, but what I've done instead is add a timeline view to ultimate tasks where you have a single timeline and you can switch projects just by changing your filter. But I want to show you sort of how to build this from scratch, because right now we're looking at a lot of stuff. So let's just look at this little timeline test database that I've created here. By default, we have our table view, and I have a video project that has several different steps. Filming a video, creating an A cut, we got our done check boxes, we have our due dates, and if we want to see all this in a timeline view, we can just click add a view, and we can click timeline. Now remember, if you wanted to save your filters and sorts from this view, you'd create a null view, and then you'd copy this one, you do that whole thing. I talk about that in my ultimate tasks build video, which I'll have linked in the description down below. We're just gonna create a timeline view from scratch. And by default, we get all of our items here in a table view, and then to the right we have the timeline view. You can hide this table view if you want, and on mobile it's going to be hidden by default. You will see a little bit later why sometimes it may not be a good idea to have this hidden. So with timeline view, what we can do is actually stretch these out and give them all specific time frames. And we can also adjust the window that we're looking at. So right now by default, we're looking at a month-long timeline. And if we create new pages with this month view, we're going to create a 5-day long project right here. So we'll just call this a 5-day project. And if we switch, we've got several different options here. We have hours, days, weeks, bi-weekly, etc. And by switching these views, we also switch the amount of time that new pages are going to be scheduled for by default. So if we're on hourly view, you can see 9:30 to 10:30, we're gonna get an hour block for any new object here. So if you're trying to map out your day, this could be a useful window of time to view it in. If we go to our week view, well then new pages are gonna be simply 1 day. So get to know how these affect your default project durations and figure out which one works best for you in certain situations. Now, one thing you're going to notice, by default, we can click here and look and we can timeline by. By default, we are simply timelining by a specific property, in this case, our due date property. And when we stretch these out, if we go back over to our table view, you will notice that we now have start and end dates for this due property right here. This is a little bit problematic for people using my ultimate tasks template and for people who are generally using due dates in general. And I'll show you why. If I go ahead and filter this where due is on or before today, well, if I create a new task, and we'll just call this new task, its due date is set to today. If I go over to the timeline view and I stretch this out, well, now the end date of the task is November 16th and the beginning date is November 12th. So in effect, the real due date is November 16th. But Notion doesn't target the end date of a date property when you're doing filtering. So if we go back over to table, we're gonna see it here as if it was due today on November 12th. For that reason, I would recommend using timeline view in a slightly different way, where instead of timelining by a single property, you come over here and you choose to use separate start and end dates. So now we can set the start date as start and we can set the end date as due, which is pretty sweet. So now you can see, and if we go over to our table view, we can see that this end date on the due property is now being essentially ignored. So if we back over on the timeline view, start stretching things out, now we're going to see that for this one, publish and share, our start date has been set to November 14th and our due date has been set to November 16th, which is pretty nice. And as always, you can do your sorting and your filtering. So maybe we sort by start date here in ascending order. So as we start creating our timeline, we're going to see it in the order we really kind of want it. So actually publish and share should probably be after do the final edit. Gather B-roll items should be before do the final edit. And I could go out and I could basically create a timeline for my project right here. Some other things you can do with timeline view. If you have enabled this table view, which you can hide by just clicking here or showing, then you are able to display properties independently from the table and the timeline. So maybe on the timeline, I want the done checkbox, but I don't want it in the table because I don't want it gunking stuff up here. Now I can see this. And personally, if you've watched my other videos, you know I typically get rid of items that are done with filtering, but I think on a timeline view, I would want to see my done projects or my done tasks in addition to the ones that are still undone. So instead of getting rid of them, I would probably just leave them there and be able to see when they're checked. So I do think that timelining by a separate start and end date property is a good idea. However, there is one slight problem with it, which is that if we have tasks like this one here that just has, and let's actually strip this start date off of here, because when you click it, it's gonna throw a start date on there. But if we just have a due date, we can see it here, list out B-roll ideas. It's got just a due date, but if I hide this table view, it's gonna hide any item that doesn't also have a start view. So right now, I consider this feature to be one that has some compromises. I think it's got some tweaks that it could get from the Notion team to be really great. But in the meantime, I think it's pretty useful for mapping out a project that has task dependencies, or mapping out a project where you want to see when things should start, when they should end, and how that all works. And this could be really, really useful if you're running a team. Now, I did mention that I added this into Ultimate Tasks. So if you are using my Ultimate Tasks template, then you will now notice that there is a timeline view here on the views list. And again, the reason I did this is because the people on the free plan are limited to 3 timelines at present moment. So instead of building it into the project template, I've just created a view where you can come in and you can simply change your filter criteria to target a different project. And to use up your 3 timelines, you could just duplicate this view a couple of times or duplicate the entire page. If this changes in the future, if Notion removes these limitations, then I will absolutely build timeline view into Ultimate Tasks, into the project templates. But for now, I think this is kind of like an in-between solution. So from there, let's move on to the next feature. And these next 3 features that we're going to talk about, I actually find more exciting than timeline view. I know they're not as flashy, but they're things that I've been waiting for a very, very long time. The first one is the ability to customize what you see on individual pages and database pages. This is something that I've been wanting for a very long time. And let me just show you an example of why this is so useful. So if we go over to our content area, this is where I plan out all my YouTube videos, and we look at all the videos that are associated with my Thomas Frank channel. And let's just find one that I've already done here, how to figure out what to do with your life. Usually in the past, when I would open up a page, because I have so many properties in this database, I would have to scroll past all these properties to get to the stuff that I was actually looking for, like my script area, my publishing checklist, all that stuff. But if you'll notice, I now have this little button, hide 26 properties. And when I load this by default, all those properties are hidden. And the way you can do this is by going up to the little 3-dot menu here and hitting customize page. And when you hit customize page, you're gonna have some options here. For every property in a database, you can choose to always show it, always hide it, or hide it when it is empty. So you can sort of create a customized view for yourself here. And notice that when you're doing this for a database page, you pick a single page in the database, you make your customizations, but they affect all pages within that database. So you don't gotta go do it for every single page in the database, which is pretty nice. In addition to these property hiding and showing options, you can choose to show your page comments in certain ways and your backlinks in certain ways. So for page comments, if I turn them off, well, there's no page comments here. If I turn them expanded, then if I add a comment to a page like so, it's going to be shown by default. Now, this does not affect comments that are added to specific lines of text, but it does affect the comments that are at the top of the page here. So if you want to see these, you can have them like that. Otherwise, you can go over to customize page and choose to turn them off. Same for backlinks, but I'm actually going to go to a different area of my workspace to show you how that works. So if I go over to our company knowledge base, then we've got 3 backlinks right here. And by default, I'm seeing these in a popover, which is my preferred way to see these backlinks. But if I wanted to, I can come up here and I can choose to customize the page and either expand them so I see them all by default, or completely turn them off. And let me show you where completely turning them off could be actually pretty useful. So we've got our video workflow tutorial here, which contains several different checklists. And these checklists are sort of master checklists that are within our wiki. They're great for reference, but our video project template actually creates copies of this master checklist so you can check them off as you go through a specific project without making changes to the master. And as you can see, we've got 38 backlinks, and these are all different video projects with their own copy of the filming checklist. But here in the wiki, I don't really care to see this. I don't need to know how many projects are backlinking here, and I certainly don't need to load a zillion of them. So here would be a great place for me to simply turn backlinks off. And now I've got this clean, simple filming checklist that I can come make changes to. So that is pretty cool. And that is basically a primer on customizing your pages. Again, it's been something that I've been wanting for a really long time, so I'm pretty happy to see this in Notion. And the next feature is another thing that I've been wanting, which is granular sharing permissions. You can now change the sharing settings of subpages, even if they are different from that of their parent page. So in the past, if we go back to knowledge base here, whatever sharing settings I set for this parent page would propagate down to every subpage, and you couldn't change that, which is kind of a bummer. So let's say, I've got everyone in my company has access to this knowledge base, but maybe I don't want to give everyone in my company access to this sponsor list here. Well, in the past, I was just kind of out of luck there. But now if I want to, I can go ahead and remove access to my workspace like so. And then by default, I'm going to get full access because it's me. And if I wanted to add somebody else, like I know Martin needs full access to our sponsor database. And I know that my editor, Tony, at least needs view access. So I can actually do granular permissions like that. I'm going to give full access to Martin, and then I'm going to give Tony view access to our sponsor database. So this is really, really powerful. You can now create these sort of granular permission trees. There are some limitations though. So let me go over to my notes that I wrote out for this video here. And I had a page set up where I wanted to sort of show some of these limitations. Though before we do that, I do want to show you one other use case where these permissions could be very, very helpful. So we have a team workspaces area for each person in my company. They all have their own dashboards. And if we look at mine here, again, in the past, your permission settings were sort of set in stone and they sort of were based on the parent page. So everyone in my company would have the ability to edit this dashboard. And I don't really want to do that. What I really would want to do is for my own dashboard, only let myself and maybe the manager of our company have full access to it, and then everyone else can view it. And if we go to someone else's workspace, like Martin's, well, only he would want to have full access to it. And we only want view access for everyone else. So this is great for if you're running a team, if you want to build dashboards for people, you can now create smarter edit access to those dashboards. So let's go back to some of those limitations I was talking about. When this feature launched, the thing I immediately thought of was, okay, can we now share linked database views that have specific filters without sharing the master database? And why would you want to do this? Well, if you had a master tasks database with multiple people on a team, you might want to only show a team member the tasks assigned to them. And you can create a filtered view to do that, but they can always just strip the filter off or go to the master database if they want to see every task. So if you're trying to restrict view access or restrict edit access, my immediate thought was this is going to enable that. Unfortunately, it doesn't quite do that. If I have this embedded linked view of a restricted task manager database and I share this page with certain people, but I do not share this page, then what's going to happen is this page is going to be just blank. They're not going to be able to see it. So right now, you still do need to share some kind of access to your master databases to anybody who wants to see them. But you can do some useful things. So for instance, I have this alternate email, which is a guest of my workspace, and it has view access to this entire database here. So if I was logged in this alternate account, I would still be able to see every single task in this database. But what I can do is give this database only view access, and then on a case-by-case basis, I could make, say, a task or a project for that alternate account, and I can create full access permissions. And I can actually show you, if I bring this up in a browser, logged in with my alternate account, I've got a filtered view here, which I cannot edit because it's only view access, and I can only see tasks assigned to me. But this task has been given full edit access for this account. So I can now interact with it. I can add text inside of it. So it's a little bit tedious because you have to add these page sharing settings on a case-by-case basis. I've tested templates and they do not work. If you create a template with specific sharing settings, but they don't match the sharing settings of the database, when you create an instance of that template, the instance is going to take on the database's sharing settings. So that doesn't work right now, but you could at least, I mean, maybe for a big project template, you could create an instance of it and you could change the sharing settings so somebody on your team has full edit access and they can come in here. My other wish list item is if you look here, I can check this at leisure, but if I look at it from the database view where I only have edit access, I can't really do anything with it. So I would like that to be updated at least, but I think we're gonna see a lot of updates coming in the future. So that's sharing settings, and we have one more feature to talk about. Really small feature. It's gonna be something that doesn't take very much time at all to talk about, but once again, it's something that I have been wanting for a very, very long time, which is the ability to limit the number of rows that are loaded in an inline database view. So let's go back over to my content area where I can show you how this works. Again, if we go over to my YouTube channel's page here, I have a lot of YouTube videos I've made, but when I load this database view, I'm only seeing the first 10. And that's really, really nice because again, there's there's 221. We can look at the count here. And if we're loading all 221, number one, we have a ton of stuff here, but also here's not a great place to show it because I have nothing under it. But if I go over to my personal workspace, right now I don't have a ton of tasks in this little task area, but if I had tons of tasks assigned to me, then I might want to limit the number that are loaded at first load. Otherwise, everything else down here that I might want to look at is going to get pushed down and I got to scroll past it, which could especially be a pain on the mobile app. So if we go back here, I can show you how this works. If we look at the three-dot menu of this database, and this works for regular inline databases, but also linked database views, then we can go to the properties area here and we can choose to show on first load a specific number of pages. We can do all of them, we can do 100 of them, or we can just do 10 of them. And of course, after the first load, if you want to see more, you can just come down here and click this load 50 more button to your heart's content if you need to find something older. So again, super quick feature, but I think it's going to be very, very useful. It's a nice quality of life upgrade for a lot of people. And that is going to do it for this overview video. Hopefully this struck a balance between being thorough enough to show you sort sort of the limitations and details of all these features, but also short enough that it's not the half-an-hour version that I first recorded before I had to redo this video. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button on YouTube. Make sure you're subscribed to this channel for more Notion tutorials coming in the future. And if you want to get all of my templates, including my Ultimate Tasks template, which now has this timeline view in it, you can go over to thomasjfrank.com/templates. And you'll also have the opportunity to sign up for my Notion Tips newsletter, which will let you know all about new templates that I create, new content that I create, tutorials, all kinds of stuff, build guides, and all kinds of cool stuff coming up in the future. I've got courses I'm working on, so I think you'll find it very, very helpful if you're trying to get the most out of Notion. Beyond that, if you have questions, let me know on Twitter. I'm at Tom Frankly over there, or leave them in the comments down below. Your questions, number one, I try to answer as many as I can in the comments. Number two, questions are great at giving me ideas for future content. So if you've got something you want to see me cover, let me know about it. And I think that is about going to do it for this video. I don't have any other weird calls to action to talk about, so let's just cut to that stupid clip that I always put at the end.